Hey guys, my name is James Walsh, and you are listening to the Wrestling Epicenter here on YouTube. I want to thank you for finding us. Please do me a favor and click that subscribe button and the notifications bell. And if you get the chance on this video, click the like button. If you do, it'll turn blue. Check it out. Also, check out WrestlingEpicenter.com for all this great content available in MP3 format, our online store that'll keep us going free and clear, daily news updates, as well as all the information from the history of professional wrestling you could possibly ever want. Check out WrestlingEpicenter.com online right now. Without any delay, let's get to your interview here on the Wrestling Epicenter. Hey guys, this is James Walsh joining you in 2021 as we go back through our archives and clean them up a little bit as best I can and upload them here on YouTube. Today we have the Christian Cage 2007 media conference call, as well as Casero, Sean Daivari, joining us. As I do this, I wanted to do this little preamble to let you know that if you go to our website, WrestlingEpicenter.com, we also have banter, talk, where we discuss all the things that were going on in wrestling at the time, and we were pretty funny back then. I had quite a few guys that were offering their take on things. So if you're looking for just talk from back then, and I don't mean talk now as we look back at it with hindsight being 2020, if you want to hear what people were saying week to week, every week, back then, pretty much from 2003 till 2017, when I was doing those kind of segments, check it out. Check out WrestlingEpicenter.com. They're available in MP3 format. I won't put that stuff on YouTube just because I'm interviewing some of the guys that we were talking about then, and it wasn't always complimentary. Did I just bury myself? Maybe a little. Anyway, let's get to those classic interviews here on the Wrestling Epicenter.
This is Kimberly Page, and the Wrestling Epicenter would like to apologize for the following.
Network on the Newsmaker line. We are being joined by a former WWE superstar, the recently released Sean Daivari. Daivari, how you doing today?
Good. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing great. It's great to have you on the program, man. It's great to talk to you. So how are you doing after your departure from the WWE?
I've been pretty good. I've been keeping a busy schedule, doing independent shows wherever I can, and got some offers to go wrestle in Japan and such. So I've been just as busy as when I was working with WWE. So it was kind of at the time when I quit, I wasn't 100% sure if that was the right thing to do, but now I'm pretty confident with the decision now that I see that the demand that's out there for me.
There is a demand out there for you. I got to tell you that. A lot of the fans have sent in some questions. One of the first questions we have submitted in from one of the fans actually has to do with your decision to depart from the WWE, as there was an internet report recently stating that you were in good talks with Brian Gewirtz, who writes Raw, for those who don't know, about what to do next with your character. And some are saying that it was your precision in trying to get something done with your character that led the writers to saying that you were being a nuisance. Is there any truth to that at all, or is that completely false?
I don't know. You know, if I was a nuisance, it was never brought to my attention by anybody. I only got the time of day whenever I wanted to talk to people. So I think if I was a nuisance, they would have blown me off and not given me the opportunity to talk to them. But I don't know how it makes sense that apparently the head writer liked me, but I was a nuisance. It's kind of ass backwards. But if I was, at least it was very clear to me. I had no idea that I was.
All right. Well, let me ask you this. You mentioned that you quit. Did you quit, or were you released, or what was the deal there?
Pretty much the whole story. They offered me a contract to stay for 3 more years, and through the negotiations, we got something figured out, and that was a contract that all parties were happy with. And then contractually, we were good, but creatively, we just had differences as far as what the character would be doing or where it should be going. And when we couldn't come to a solution creatively, I told them that I wasn't going to be re-signing my deal. And then at that point, I figured if I'm not going to be hanging around, you know, there's really no purpose in me finishing out my current contract. And I asked them for my release, which they granted. You know, that was very cool of them. You know, they could have benched me for the remainder of my contract if they wanted to, but they were nice enough to let me out of my deal and let me, you know, be able to go pursue other work. And I think the reason they did that was they appreciated my honesty up front, telling them that I wasn't going to be re-signing. A lot of times I think guys would be like, yeah, I'll sign it next week or next month, or my lawyer's looking over it, and then all of a sudden, before you know it, their deal's up, and they say, no, I'm not resigning. So I think they appreciated my honesty and professionalism up front, which is kind of why it was a very good separation between both of us.
So you feel you left the door open if you ever wanted to go back?
Yeah, John Laurinaitis, who runs talent relations, said he'd like to have me back whenever he wants. And both Vince and Stephanie said that, doors always open for a return, hopefully more successful than my last stint.
So I take it you're pretty happy with your choice. Obviously, for those who don't know, you actually worked some TNA dark matches, you worked some ROH dark matches before you even signed with the WWE. You worked WWE dark matches as well. So basically, what was the major problem with the differences of opinion? Was it that you wanted to be more active inside the ring?
No, it wasn't. I mean, towards my last, I'd say almost a year there, I've been wrestling every single night on house shows and TV and stuff, so it wasn't like it was as far as the way they were using me. It was just creative ideas of what the character should be doing right specifically now, and I think there were other guys that were more of a priority on the show that they couldn't allot the time to do the things that I wanted to do necessarily, but, and that was even what Vince and Stephanie both said to me is that, when we couldn't come to a creative conclusion, they were always saying, that's just for right now. That doesn't necessarily mean 2 weeks from now, 2 months from now, 2 days from now, you can't do it. It's just at that current week when I asked, they weren't ready to start something new or go in a different direction with me. And at that point, I just kind of felt like, I think I might do okay elsewhere.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about the characters you did play in the WWE. One of the first characters that we remember, we did see in some matches on Raw, squash matches and things, and on Heat as well. But before you really broke in, it was the Daivari character with Muhammad Hassan. Now, who dreamed up this character, and was it something that you were okay with playing?
Yeah, it was actually something I've been doing on the independents before I got signed. It wasn't like a change of directions or a change of characters at all for me. It's what I've been doing pretty much since the day I got started. So when they told me that's what I was going to be doing, it was a super convenient thing for me, a super convenient character for me to slip into because I already felt like I knew it pretty well. So there was never any hesitation on my part to do it or any sort of learning curve to get it down.
Now, Rick Clark, one of our listeners, sent in a question. They'd like to know the language that you're speaking when you're yelling in your, what I'm assuming is an Arab language. Is that actually speaking or is that just gibberish?
No, that's actually Farsi. That's like predominantly what they speak in Iran and parts of Afghanistan and Turkey and all the countries that used to speak in Persia. That was actually, I think, the first language I learned growing up. My mom and dad were both immigrants in the United States, but their English was terrible. So that was my first language I learned to speak, and then my English kind of got polished up, and my parents were better English than I went into elementary school.
Excellent. I probably would have lost a bet on that because I didn't know that if it was real or not, and I think people need to know that it actually was.
Yeah, whenever people always ask me that, I'm sure there's some Arabic-speaking person out there in the world or Farsi-speaking person that would have went out and let the world know that I was speaking bibbidi-bop gibberish.
I would have thought so. So let me ask you a question here. Muhammad Hassan was the person you were paired with, and some people have different opinions of this guy. Did you think he was ready for the big time?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, he was. I thought everything he did well. There wasn't much that. I thought the character and the stuff we did was very successful, so there wasn't. I don't know how anyone can say that it didn't work well because the stuff we did on TV went exactly the way we planned it. So I don't know what critics and naysayers would have to say, but I was always happy to work with them.
Alrighty. Now, you hold a pinfall victory over Shawn Michaels. Now, for a young wrestler like yourself, what did that match mean to you?
Oh, that was awesome for many reasons. One, it was my first match on Raw since I re-debuted. And then also on that, someone I looked up to as a kid growing up. He was a really, really, really big inspiration of mine as a wrestler growing up, and I really liked him. So from a personal standpoint, it was also very cool to work with someone that you idolize and look up to that much.
Right. And somebody that I've always idolized and had the chance to interview shortly after this match was always Hulk Hogan. And you actually had an opportunity to team up with Muhammad Hassan against Shawn Michaels and Hulk Hogan at the Backlash pay-per-view. Is there ever any butterflies or anything go through your stomach working with such well-renowned veterans?
No, not so much butterflies. There's always that kind of pressure to perform. Especially when it's a big advertised, pay-per-view headlining match like that, let alone, two guys that I idolized growing up. There's just a lot of pressure on me as far as, do them proud, do the best you can so they're happy with the match, which turned out, they were. So it wasn't necessarily like butterflies and nervousness, huge kind of pressure to, please don't mess up so these guys can, kind of look at you on par, or at least, on level as any other wrestler they could be working with.
Right. And I got to tell you, it was a great honor for me. And now I'm a few years older than you, which is uncommon for me doing this show. I'm actually a few years older than you. It was just a great honor for me to even interview Hogan. So I can't imagine what it's like to stand across the ring from him or take the leg drop from him or whatever the case might have been.
Yeah, it's always cool, man.
Alrighty. Well, let me ask you this. Do you feel that there was maybe too much made of the whole incident that people are now calling the terrorism angle that happened on SmackDown that made UPN just about have a stroke? Do you think that maybe too much was put onto that?
Yeah, of course. You're talking about from WWE or from the media?
From both, I should say.
No, from WWE, I thought they did a great job. I remember at the time when we did it, obviously SmackDown was taped on Tuesdays, and at that time it aired on Thursdays. When they did it, I thought it was a really, really good piece of business compared to what all the boys thought of it and the office thought of it as they were watching it backstage on the monitors, the way the audience reacted to it. I thought it was a great thing. I thought it was something that was on par with anything you see on 24, the unit, or Sleeper Cell at a given point in time on television. And then, unfortunately, the day it aired that morning, those London bombings happened. So, for the media, the outlet that we got from it saying it was such poor taste to do it and this and that, still to this day, nobody ever looked at the fact that we taped this on Tuesday.
Right.
And unless they're calling us mind readers or, we could predict the future, obviously we had no idea what was going to happen. So, from the media, I think it was a huge over clarification of something that was so minuscule and so not a big deal in the realm of what else is on television that it just sucked that big wigs felt like they had to react to justify their paycheck.
Exactly. And do you think that, given the recent things that have happened, such as, I can't mention the name because it's so taboo, but Chris Benoit and everything, the media reaction to things like that, do you think that it also would help them to do their research when they're reporting on things like that?
Oh, of course, definitely. And that's the case with anything in the media. Unfortunately, not everyone is an expert on everything,
right.
But the media is the only people that try and act like that. Most wrestling fans, whenever they see anything from the media, say on the Chris Benoit coverage, it just happened, the majority of them would write it off. They would put some retarded statistic about all these dead wrestlers, and one of them will still be alive. Or they'll say the death of the British Bulldog and have a picture of Road Warrior Animal on there or something. It was so retarded and so unresearched and uneducated the stuff they were saying. I think the wrestling fans kind of wrote it off. The thing that sucked about it is the non-wrestling fans watch the news and assume the facts. So it was very hard for us to defend ourselves from someone that doesn't know our products or our industry.
No, the WWE kind of became tight-lipped at that time with all the bad publicity they were getting. What was the vibe backstage? What were you thinking about how to answer these questions? Because undoubtedly you had media people trying to contact you and ask you certain questions about the S word and things like that was going on at the time.
Yeah, it was there were two completely unrelated issues. Benoit thing and the steroid thing are two completely different animals.
Mm-hmm.
Benoit stuff was just pure confusion because it was like, for most people, it was just a piece of news. For us, it was like, something that happened to a member of our family, and I think utterly everybody was just completely confused because there was no way they could wrap their brains about it or comprehend how someone we knew and loved was able to do, commit such an act. So on that front, it was kind of utter confusion. As far as the steroid stuff, that was just kind of all a write-off. Again, it was the same issue where people that were in the know knew what kind of BS it was, and then the people that weren't, like the media and stuff, would be able to report whatever they wanted. And unfortunately, today's day and age, you don't need any sort of credentials or any sort of confirmation before you can report something. So they could go on there tomorrow and say, all the wrestlers are taking M&Ms, which have tons of testosterone in it, and they're all on steroids and taking M&Ms, and they can go on and say that without facing any sort of repercussions.
Right.
So it's completely ridiculous for anyone that's in the know, but again, the thing that sucks is for those that don't know or aren't in the know, watch the news and just assume it's reported back.
So I take it that's a frustrating thing for the wrestlers to deal with.
Yeah, it's more than anything, it's annoying. Because like I said, I think for the most part, we all write it off. I know people always ask me how morale is or how guys are taking this kind of stuff, and we take it kind of like some guy in the street corner handing out flyers for a club. It's like you kind of ignore him, you don't even pay attention to it. The second you blink, you forget about it.
Well, getting back to the questions here, it seemed like you guys were really moving along. It looked like maybe at some point you were going to separate yourself from Hassan. There was the slaps going on, things like that. Do you think his decision to part from the WWE kind of hurt whatever they were going to do with you?
I don't think so, because in hindsight, I was only gone for 3 months. You know, at the time, it really sucked that the angle or the gimmick was kind of killed off, and then before I knew it, 3 months later, I was back on TV doing the same stuff I've been doing with Muhammad, with Kurt Angle, and John Cena. So in hindsight, it really wasn't that big a deal. I didn't mind that much.
Right. Did working with such stars as Kurt Angle and John Cena, how did you enjoy doing that?
Oh, it's awesome. John's become slowly one of my closer friends on the show, especially since I've been back on Raw this last summer. So working with him was fun. Working with Kurt was also cool too. You know, he's someone that I always looked up to, and we never had a chance to work together because when I was on Raw, he was on SmackDown. When I was on SmackDown, he was on Raw. So once we finally got on the same show, it was really cool to work with him and someone I became, you know, also close personal friends with.
Now, Kurt Angle's now working with TNA.
Yep.
And you also did some exposure matches a few years back. So what is your personal opinion right now of TNA, and might we ever see you maybe take a stab at the X Division or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think if TNA would be interested in having me in and feel like I can contribute to their product and that'd be something that their audience would like to see, then I would definitely be interested in working there. Top of my resume reads professional wrestler, so whoever wants to use me is more than welcome to, as long as I can help contribute to their show and it's something that their audience would be interested in seeing.
Right.
The product, though, from when I did tryouts there to what it is today, is completely different. I think at that point in time, in 2002, 2003, when I was going down there, they really had very little direction. Whereas today, it's like comparing apples and oranges. They're completely focused. They know exactly what they're doing, and they have a direction of their show, and they know where they're going from week to week, month to month, to year. To see it grow from a regionally based pay-per-view broadcast that just happened on Wednesdays to a somewhat network television deal on Fox Sports Net to a regular nationwide television deal on Spike, prime time on Spike, 2 hours. You know, every year they're taking big strides. So I'm really excited to see what, 2010, 2015 holds for that company, because every year they're making huge strides forward, faster than any other organization has ever made.
That is absolutely the case. You still with me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, I'm so sorry about that. Basically, my next question is then, you own the name Daivari, because obviously that's your real name, is it not?
Yep, that's my last name.
So basically, you're in a better position than a lot of guys who depart from the WWE, because they can't take that away from you. That's your name.
Yeah, something that was, fortunate for me is when I went into WWE, they didn't repackage me really. What I'd been doing on the independents beforehand was the same thing I did there. I used the same name, I used the same gimmick, I used the same outfit. I spoke Farsi. This is all stuff that I came up with and I was doing. So it was really fortunate that WWE obviously liked it enough and they continued doing it. There's a good possibility that I could have been using if they came up with something different for me or a character they created. Actually, I would be obligated to follow. So it was very fortunate for me that they liked what I was doing beforehand and I was able to continue doing it.
All right, excellent. Well, the next person you were working with was, I believe, the Great Khali.
Actually, there was Mark Henry.
Mark Henry was in between that. I'm sorry. My timeline sucks. I'm horrible with dates, I got to be honest with you.
We were together a very short time, so
yeah.
It wasn't like something groundbreakingly new.
Exactly, but the question is, did you feel that could have worked? Because a lot of people felt that when you went to Raw, that Khali, I think they brought somebody in to speak for him for a short time, and I just think that maybe it would have been better just to pair you guys back up again, and this way, if you're on SmackDown, you could also go for the Cruiserweight title.
Yeah, I think it's when me and Khali finally did split up, and that was, we worked ECW together after SmackDown.
Right.
And, hey, I'm sorry.
Not a problem.
For ECW, when we split up, I think they wanted us each to go our separate ways, which is why I was in SmackDown and he was in Raw.
Right.
And I thought it worked out well. It was good for both of us. I don't think they planned on having anyone with Khali. I think he's supposed to be his own guy. And
right.
Coincidentally, there's a writer who is from the same part of India that Khali is from, and they speak the same language. They speak Hindi.
Right.
So this writer would always help him out with, this is what time your flight leaves. This is where the building they saw how easily they're able to communicate, I think it's just to kind of someone got an idea in their head that maybe we should just put him whenever he needs a spoken role on camera and put this guy with him. And then, like obviously the writer doesn't do house shows, and sometimes on big pay-per-view matches he's not even out there because he's not essentially, he's not a manager like the term manager we're used to. He's more just like literally just a mouthpiece.
Now, at the end of your run there, I think just recently, as a few weeks ago, you were doing the main event of Heat with Cody Rhodes. But at any point in the recent months and weeks, as the time progressed, did you start to feel a little lost in the shuffle of all the stars they had?
Yeah, sort of. I never knew if that was part of my contract renegotiations or what. Obviously, if they're not 100% sure if a guy's going to stay around in any business, you're done to invest any time in them. So I don't know if that was something they were doing in the meantime until we figured out the deal with my contract, or if maybe that was all they had for me at the moment. I really don't have a straight answer for you, but I felt like they're not necessarily lost in the shuffle, but the show needed to go in a specific direction at that specific time, because usually going into Survivor Series, Royal Rumble to WrestleMania is kind of very, very planned out. Sometimes it's hard to start something new or something in the meantime when there's so much direction going on.
Right. Alrighty, so basically where we stand now is that you're working indies. I think you said you're headed to Japan. What company are you going to work for over there?
I got some offers to wrestle for two different companies. I don't want to say anything because I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to do yet, but two major promotions in Japan have both contacted me about possibly working for them. So once I figure out and end up, agreeing to one of them, then I can let everybody know. But I don't want to throw two names out there just in case it causes a bigger, shitstorm than necessary.
And how about in the U.S.? You mentioned you've been doing some indies, so where have you been working around here?
Yeah, I just did some stuff in San Antonio. I got some stuff coming up in Amarillo. I got something in Rhode Island, like really all over the country. Some stuff in Milwaukee lined up, just Northern California. Like I'm seriously getting offers from all over the place, and if we can make sense and fit into my schedule, I'm taking the booking. So I wish I could tell you more, but when you hear so many three-letter promotions, it's very, very hard to keep them all straight.
Starts to become just who signs the check as opposed to the company name, doesn't it?
It's just easier to remember cities. I can't remember if it's WCT or ABC or XYZ, but
right.
Say, the guy in Cleveland, I can remember Cleveland.
Right. So let me ask you this. You're working on the indies. What's the crowd reaction like different now from when you were on the indies before the WWE fame?
I think it's generally a lot more positive. The people, I think for the most part, are just kind of happy to see someone they recognize from television.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times, actually the past two shows I did, even though I've been a bad guy almost my whole career, and definitely for the last 3 years on WWE television, I wrestled as a good guy the last two shows, and it got over extremely well. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of fun to be able to do that back and forth, not necessarily getting in the funk of doing, WWE, you gotta cater to your television audience, so you kind of have to do the same thing over and over and over again. Whereas over here on Saturday, I can be a good guy, on Friday, I can be a bad guy, and then on Sunday, I can be a good guy again. And the audience, they won't know any difference because it's all regionally based.
All right, well, we're going to let you off the phone here in a minute, but I did want to ask you, basically, if I'm not mistaken, you're 23 years old. Is that not correct? Now, you're 23 years old, and you're standing in a better position than most wrestlers, probably 10 years older than you, in that you've been to the big dance. You've shook the right hands. You've done all the right things so far. Being your age, what is your goals now? What do you hope to accomplish in the future in the professional wrestling industry?
I still say that just the current wrestling fans that are watching the product know me, but I want to, ultimately become a household name. That's something that I think everybody strives for, and that means you are able to rise on top in more than one occasion. It sounds insane, but it's not that difficult to headline something one time. And I've been there. I have headlined WWE programming, WWE pay-per-view one time. So now it's up to me to see if I can do it over and over again, to see if I can go to TNA and work my way up to the main event. And then maybe 10 years from now, come back to WWE and work my way up to the main event. And maybe in the meantime, go to Japan and see if I can work my way to the main event. That's kind of one of those staple things where you can see if it's if you're a one-trick pony or if you really have it inside you to be able to climb up to the top, regardless of where you are. So that's the next focus for me, is to see, wherever my next, full-time gig or full-time wrestling career comes, if I can come in and, over a while and climb my way to the top of the card.
All right. Well, I've seen some of your indie work. I have some of your early ECWA matches, as a matter of fact, and I mean, I'm really a big fan. I have an incredible tape library. Do you feel WWE gave you the opportunity to really show your wares in the ring?
I don't want to say they didn't give me the opportunity, but like I said, I haven't had, with the exception of one or two things, I haven't had like the 25, 35, 45 minute drawn out matches. I never got one of those. I think my longest matches was like a 20-minute match, 15-minute match. I think that's something that I think everybody can do a 5-minute match. Almost everybody can do a 10-minute match. Most guys can do a 15-minute match, but it takes something special to do one of those 35, 45-minute matches, and that was something that I'd like to see if I'm able to do, and keep the audience with me. So I don't want to necessarily say that I wasn't given the opportunity, but it never came up. So that's something else, Like I said, I'm only 23 years now, and there's plenty of wrestlers that are still wrestling at 43.
Yep.
So, who knows what the future holds.
Absolutely. Well, again, thank you so much for joining us here on the Interactive Interview, part of the Epicenter Radio Network. We wish you the best of luck in the future, and if there's anything you want us to promote, any upcoming appearances, any email addresses, any websites, please let us know. We'll be glad to put links up and advertise it to the best of our ability.
Yeah. What I can do is I can just mention right now my website, www.SeanDaivari.com. You can go on there to see what I've been doing or what I'm up to, or get a hold of me. And then also, if anyone would like to use me either on their wrestling events, autograph signing, conventions, I'm running clinics, seminars all over the country, you can contact my agent at bookdavari@hotmail.com.
All right, man. Wish you the best of luck, and stay tuned for more from the Interactive Interview. All right, before I let you go, can I ask for one favor? And by the way, that was excellent. I really do appreciate your time.
Yeah, cool, no problem.
Sure. The last question I have for you, or not question, but a favor, is would you mind giving us a liner? Yeah. Basically saying this is Daivari and you're in the Epicenter, or let me try rephrasing that because even I can't do it. Let's say this is Daivari and you're in the wrestling Epicenter.
Okay.
So you can add your own twist to it. It doesn't matter, whatever you want to do.
Should I just start now? You're recording?
Yeah, I'm recording. Anytime you want.
Okay. Hey, and you are listening to the Epicenter.
All right, man. I wish you the best of luck, and if there's anything else we can do, just give.
The Wrestling Epicenter?
If you want to do Wrestling Epicenter too, that'd be great.
Okay, I saw you. So let me go one more time.
Okay, sure.
Hey, this is Sean Daivari, and you are listening to the Wrestling Epicenter.
All right, man. Best of luck to you. If there's anything else we could do for you, please keep my number on file because I'd love to do anything you needed me to do.
All right, sounds good, dude.
All right, take it easy. Thanks a lot, man. Appreciate it.
This is Bob Backlund, and you listen to Interactive Radio. And sit up straight when I'm talking to you.
Hey guys, my name is James Walsh, and you are listening to the Wrestling Epicenter here on YouTube. I want to thank you for finding us. Please do me a favor and click that subscribe button and the notifications bell. And if you get the chance on this video, click the like button. If you do, it'll turn blue. Check it out. Also, check out WrestlingEpicenter.com for all this great content available in MP3 format, our online store that'll keep us going free and clear, daily news updates, as well as all the information from the history of professional wrestling you could possibly ever want. Check out WrestlingEpicenter.com online right now. Without any delay, let's get to your interview here on the Wrestling Epicenter.